Well, today's July 6th. It's my birthday. 61 years old today. It's a good day. Oh, what a year this last year has been. And I found it interesting the things that people have said about this last year about this is the most horrible year we've ever had. I hate this year. I can't wait for this year to be over, and uh, and everything else. And I can certainly understand why people have felt the way they did about 2020. And of course, it's 2021 now, but it's the middle of the year. It's my birthday. So it's been a year for me since the accident that I had a year a little later this month. But if you go back to last year and how people have, it's been a tough time. I mean, come on, let's not pretend that it hasn't been a really tough time for most people. But as I've been moving toward this day, and as I've been thinking about yet one more message that there's probably going to be a lot more messages, as you know, but one more message, the message for today. This thought has just kept coming into my mind, and I want to use the thought. I want to say it, but I don't want people to get frustrated with me because what I want to say is this year has been the best year of my life. And don't hang up, please. Well, you can if you want to. It has been a great year for me. It has been the hardest year that I've ever had in my life. Not because of COVID, that was difficult enough. But, the personal things of my life that have taken place and been real in my life with having an accident, having brain damage, having now given up my business, struggling for words, unable to read. We could go through a whole litany of things to say about the last year, and probably will say some more about that sort of thing. But it has been a great year, and I'll tell you why. Right off the top, why it's been a great year because it has brought into my own personal life things that I've wanted for a long time. Some changes in my life, some things I wanted to see be a little different in my life than they had been. So this year has afforded changes that actually have been good changes, important changes in my life. And I have to go back to about 12 years ago, something like that, when I left the ministry and left on very bad terms. And it was difficult, it was tough. That was also the year that our youngest son got married, and just at the same time that had to give up the ministry. That's when they got married in our house, and I was out of work, I was out of money, and we put together a wedding, and it was a great wedding. And so many from my family and friends had come to the wedding, and it was great. And my son and his wife got a start in life, and they moved there in Michigan with us, and we bought a home together, and they lived upstairs, and we lived downstairs. And later on, my other son moved upstairs when they moved back here to the Quad Cities, and uh, kind of began life over. But but that was a tough time for me in my life, and spiritually a very difficult time. And I know that I've spoken about that at other times. That was hard, you know. There were times when I was angry at God and frustrated with Him and frustrated with the church and frustrated with my life and not knowing where I was going to turn. And so it's been 12 years ago, and I've done some preaching since then. Sort of have this uh, YouTube uh, videos that I do, and preached at my own church there at in here in Davenport. I preached at my sister's church. So there's been activity that's taken place, and trying to figure out who I am again and where I'm going to go in life was a very difficult time. And so the interesting thing about all of this is right before we lost the ministry was probably what I would call a golden period of time in my life, in terms of my relationship with God. I felt so close to God. I was growing closer to Him. I was understanding things about God that I had never understood before. I was very tight with God. And then this thing happened, and it was terrible. And for years now, it's been tough. And so over the next, up until now, I didn't know. I wanted kind of to um, get back to where I was, but I didn't have any idea because it really was a golden period of time spiritually for me. And I didn't have any idea how to get back to that. And so there would be some good months and some bad months. And there were times I was very upset, very angry with God. And that kind of went away more and more as time went on, but then just kind of like, okay, how do I get God to be this place that I wanted it to be before, and it was becoming before, and it kind of has fallen away in my life. And I started looking at Bible passages about people, even from the very beginning, and how close they were with God, and how had these amazing conversations with God, and God was just there, and He was just real. And there's a there's a word for that, says that God is Jehovah Shammah. God is there, and He was. If you read the Bible passages, He was there. I mean, He literally, you could see Him, taste Him. There's something going on in the background. I can hear. Maybe you can hear it. I'm outside in my yard, which is a great place to be. But right now, there's some music, not music, something going on, and maybe you can hear that, maybe you can't, but just move along with me, okay, through it. So, uh, this period that I wanted to get back to, a golden period of being close to God, like those early people, I always thought, if God could actually show up in some physical manifestational, I don't know if that's a word or not, but way that it was obvious that God was there. I thought that would be really cool. And I thought, well, why couldn't it be that way? And listen, stop right here. I'm not going into some weird thing here. I'm just saying I wanted a time with God that was unlike any other time. And so we come now to last year at this time when I was really talking to God about that, really thinking about that, and just trying to figure out how do I get to a place with God that's maybe that's better than it was before I left the ministry, uh, different, and just bigger, better than ever before. How, is that possible? And then came the accident, and as I've said a number of times, during those first weeks afterwards, and I was in the hospital, and there's only a few words that I could say. I could say, I love Jesus, and okay, and I win. I remember saying that. I think I was going back to my football days in high school. We're going to win. Those who stay will be champions. That was something that we used to say, and so I could say I'm going to win. Uh, in my mind, I could speak English. I could think anything I wanted to think. There was nothing changing about that, but the words that I could say just didn't necessarily come out right. They still don't. Still struggling very much with that. I sometimes people say, "Well, I don't recognize that." It's because one of the things I've learned to do is when I'm in the middle of saying something and I can't remember the word, I use another word that's similar to it, and I've learned how to just jump into that. Although sometimes I can't, and it just doesn't come back to me. I was talking to someone earlier today, and they were asking me about my son's vacation. I can't. I could not come up with the name of the state that he's in right now. What state? I'm still not thinking of it. And that's a couple of hours ago now, but I don't know. It's just crazy and trying to come up with things I've known from years ago. I remember them, but to tell you is hard. It's difficult, very difficult. So anyhow, here I am in the hospital, and God and I were having long conversations with each other. I was speaking in English in my brain, but not so to talk to another human being. The words just wouldn't come out. And long conversations, trying to figure out where I'm to go, who I am, where I'm to go. Things started changing for me. And over the last year, it's now been a year, a lot of things have changed for me. And the reason I say, this has been a very important, a great year, an important year, a good year for me. Not an easy year. Not an easy year, a difficult year, but a good year. Probably the best I've had, because in this year, what has begun to happen is that God is taking me forward. I want to say took me back to those days that I was talking about earlier when I was preaching. He hasn't taken me back there, but he's taken me forward to a new place, a new time, and a new relational situation with him that's different than it was before. But it's good because I've been able to find God in a new place, in a new time, in a new way. And I guess the best way that I can kind of express that is I, I've been married a long time. Marriage, marriage is not for sissies, especially if you want your marriage to be long lasting, a lifetime. If you want to live up to those things that you say you're going to do when you say, uh, until death do us part, no matter what, I'm going to stick it out. Whether we have money or not, whether you change or not, whether you're the same or not, whether it's happy or not, whether we have a good sex life or not. You can go on with a whole lot of things. I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to work through it. And for those of you that are men, it's hard to understand a woman. They're deep. They're tough. I think men are a lot more sissies than women are. It's easier to figure men out, I think, than it is to figure women out. Or maybe it's just because we're not as smart as they are sometimes. I hope no women are listening to this. I don't want to give them the wrong suggestion here that I would say that a woman could be smarter than me. Holy cow, no way. But in so many ways, women can be a lot smarter. I've told my wife many times she's smarter than I am, and in many ways she is smarter than I am. It takes a lifetime to figure out a woman. She's the most complicated person you're ever going to meet in this world. And it's not easy. Now you think about God. You want to get to know God. You want to know Him. God's only about 1,000,000,000,000 times more complicated than a woman can be. So it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have to decide in your heart and in your mind that I want to figure God out. I know many, many, many years ago, I started on this path and I said, okay, God, and I probably have said this, maybe even on YouTube, I don't know. I've said this many times. I said to God, I want to know the real God. I want to know who you are. I don't want to know what other people have said about you. I don't really care what theologians have said about you. I don't even completely care much about what a lot of people in the Bible said about you, except for Jesus, because Jesus knows the bottom line. Jesus is the image of God, the exact image of God in human personhood. See there, I just changed the word. Makes it look like I can remember things that I can't remember. The exactly God. He is God in human form. Can you believe that? That's hard to understand. There's so much of God that's hard to understand. People come up with all kinds of, they become very angry and frustrated, or they become sanctimonious. Is that a good word? Sanctimonious. I know God like nobody else knows God. You know what? I don't know God very well. But I know Him more than I ever have before, and I know Him better than I know than a lot of people know God. And it's just a matter of, if I'm going to come to know God, then I have to come to know God. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. It's not going to come out of just what you read about Him. It's not going to come out of even your Bible verses that you're going to study about Him. It's going to come out of having being with Him and walking through things with Him and learning. God does speak to us. The Holy Spirit lives inside of us. So you are going to hear words from God that's going to come from inside. Well, how do you discern the difference between when it's the Holy Spirit speaking to you and when it's your own mind speaking to you? Well, that's going to take some work. Sometimes you're going to get it. Sometimes you're not going to figure it out very well at all. But you got to work on that. You got to take the time to learn. I heard God. And then you see that you heard God when you see the fruit of that sometimes. And other times you think, that was my own foolishness. But you don't stop back and say, okay, I can't get Him because I goofed up. Well, He is, how many times have you goofed up with your woman or with your man? I don't get a lot of things my wife says to me, but that's okay. Much harder for God. But He's still God. He's still there. He's still speaking. He's still teaching. Learning what God says, that's a part of it. Learning to know how to do what is right. Learning how to go to the next stop and what God wants me to do in my life. It's tough. just so many things about God that are tough. And then you start looking at things like, you know, people get all upset about the fact that in the world there's a lot of problems, and how does God allow these things to happen? You tell some people, well, God is a God of love, and they don't believe you because all they see is that God is something other than that He's more about anger and frustration, and trying to understand that God actually does love us. And what does love even mean? I don't know. Do you know? Do you really know what love really means? If God is love, then what is love? I'm throwing a lot of stuff out there today because I think that what this year has been for me is a year of just really studying God in a new and deeper way than I've studied Him before. I don't mean studying Him like studying a book, but studying out this relationship with Him, trying to understand Him, trying to really know. This goes back to what I said. God, I want to know the real God, who you are, what you are like, what you believe in, what you think, where you stand on things, what you want, where you want to take me, all these kinds of things. I want to know you, God. I want to know you. And in so learning to know who you are, I want to know who you created me to be and what you wanted to create me to be. So that's what this year has been about. And because I have I have come to a new golden period for me in relationship with Him. And I like that. It's not the same golden place that I was before, but it's a place that's golden. It's wonderful. And I guess the thing about that is for so many people have had such a hard year, you know, and of course last year is over now, but I'm counting a year from my accident to my accidents. A few more days from now, I will have had that accident. It's been a year. Um, but to go past that period and to say, okay, this is a tough time in my life, but it doesn't have to be a bad time. It depends on what I want. What do I really, truly want in life? Do I just want money? Do I just want, we said sex before, do I just want sex? Do I just want a good time? Do I just want to go to ball games? Do I just want to have a good vacation? I get really frustrated because I can't go on vacation. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do everything that I had wanted to do. But what about the thing that matters the absolute most in our life is providing for and planning for an eternal relationship with this God that starts right here and now. Because when I die, I'm going to see Him as He really is. And I want to know Him. And I want Him to be able to say to me something similar to what He said to David. Here's a man after my own heart. He called Moses his friend. God to call me my friend, His friend. I want to say, I know you. You're my friend. And that only means that the things that really matter in life is that that I decide that no matter how difficult and frustrated and hard it is to find Him and know Him, and to what God is hard. God is not easy. He doesn't just throw it to you and say, "Oh, here it is," and you go, "Oh, yeah, that was easy. I know God now." No, God's tough, man. If you want to know Him, you gotta go for it, and it's hard. Maybe if I hadn't had this, accident, I wouldn't be able to go for God in the same way. I often think about that. What if I hadn't had this accident and I'm still sitting there saying, well, I'd really kind of like to know God better, but, I'm not getting anywhere. But now I am in a position where, the little things of life matter, because I can't do it on my. I need God's help. I have trouble counting money. You know, uh, just go to the bank with my ATM and try to remember the words that it takes, and trying to remember what the ATM is even telling me to do to find out how much money I have in there, and trying to I've had to learn how to do all those things without being able to read the words or remember the words. It's not just reading, but it's remembering the right word, because that's part of it. For me now, I have this word I want, ATM. I can't remember that word. What is it that I'm wanting to go to? Someone asked me, "Where are you going?" Um, uh, Gosh, I could drive you right there, but I can't remember the name of the place. And it's somewhere that they have, well, you can get food there, and oh yeah, no, it's not the hospital. I mean, that's how it is for me. It's tough. So God has put me in a position where I need Him for everything, and that's good because now I can find Him, and that's hard to say. I'm afraid people listen to this and say, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, how can you say that? Even having all these troubles now, you can't read anything, you can't remember these words, but God has put me in a position where I need Him. It's not a position I would have put myself. I don't think God threw me into this place, but God has certainly allowed this to be something that's important for my life. I think He wants, if you want it, you're going to get it. And I want to stop here in just a minute, but I want to close out this message that I've put together. Best year of my life. That's what we're going to call it. I want to close this out by saying one of the things that frustrates me or bothers me regarding the church is I don't think, for the most part, the church is busy helping people to find God in an intimate, personal, loving, wonderful way. I'm not against the church. I go to a church. I'm on staff at a church, not just help out a little bit. I'm not a member. I mean, I'm a member. I can't come up with the word. I'm not employed by them. So I'm talking about the church at large is about so many things. You know, we But what about really helping people in what matters the absolute most? I mean, we want to get people to heaven. We want to teach them the Bible. We want to teach them who God is. There's so much that's good about the church. There really is. Are we helping people to recognize the most important thing in the world is this deep place of friendship, like a marriage? I've used that word a couple times now, I said, because it really is like a marriage with God. Well, you're going to be married to somebody who is a million times more complicated than a wife or husband. I've said that. It bothers me that we're not helping people to recognize that and really desire that and help them to go there. I think an awful lot of church, is about helping people to do good things, not do sinful things. Don't sin, you know. You know, figure out how to work out on your finances. A lot of good things to do and being part of in a church. But is this the bottom line of it? Is this the most important thing? That in our hearts and our minds we say, I've got to know him. And it doesn't matter what it's going to take, Lord. I'm going to go there. I'm going to find it. Thanks for listening. For some of you, I think this is probably very happy and very good place for you to go, and probably very thankful for it. Others probably like, I don't know what he's talking about, and that's okay too. But thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day. Hey, it's my birthday. 61 years old. See you later.